In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the brush holder in a Porter Cable 690 router. Your router has two brush holders, one on either side of the motor. The brush holder both holds the brush in place, as well as transfers power from the wiring to the brush itself. Brush holders are usually damaged in an overloading situation, where the front of the brush holder, the part nearest the armature, can actually melt and become damaged, at which time you'll need to replace the brush holder. Replacing the brush holder is easy to do, and I'm going to show you how. Brush holders, as well as many other parts, can be found on our website. Let's get started. I'll begin by removing the router motor from the router's base. And now I'll go ahead and remove the two screws that secure the cap to the motor. Now I'll remove the brushes so that they don't get hung up on the bearing as we remove the top half of the motor housing. Now I'll make a reference mark between the upper and lower motor housings. This will just make it easier to line everything up when we go to put it back together. Now I can remove the two screws that secure the upper half of the motor housing to the lower half. And a few taps with a rubber mallet will help me to separate these two pieces. The brush holder is secured to the upper motor housing with a set screw. I'll go ahead and loosen that screw. Next, I'll remove the brush holder lead from the brush holder. It's held in place with a coiled spring. I just slide it off of the holder. I'll also remove the shield. To remove the brush holder, I'll insert a screwdriver through the opposite holder from the one I'm going to remove. Then I'll place the screwdriver on the lip of the brush holder I'm removing and use the screwdriver to tap the brush holder out. Now I'll install the new brush holder. I'll slide it into the motor housing and then use the mallet and screwdriver to tap it into place again. I want to be careful that I don't tap it in too far. I'll break the flange off the front of the brush holder. Just tap it in until it stops. Right there. With the brush holder installed to the proper depth, now I'll use a large screwdriver to rotate the brush holder around until it's vertical. Like that. Now I'll resecure the brush holder with the set screw. Now I'll slide the shield back over the brush holder. And I'll reinstall the brush holder wire lead. Now I can reinstall the lower half of the motor housing to the upper half. I'll insert the armature through the field. Make sure that it lines up properly with the top half of the housing and line up our reference marks that we made earlier. Just like that. And I'll secure the upper and lower halves of the motor housing with the screws. Now I can reinstall the cover. I just want to make sure I have all the wires tucked in and make sure that nothing's going to get pinched, especially in this area, when I put the cover back on. Now I can reinstall the brushes. The brush just slides into the brush holder. Then I line up these tabs on the end of the brush wire with the slots in the brush holder. Hold that in place and slide one of the caps on. This part can be a little tricky. It might take a couple of tries to get all that lined up. Then I'll secure the brush with a screwdriver. You want to be careful not to over tighten these or you will crack them. And I do that same thing on the other side. And I'll finish up by reinstalling the base.